Hi, I'm Rob Johnstone, Editor-in-Chief of the Woodworker's Journal magazine. We're back in the shop today to demonstrate how to make dovetailed keys. It's a simple but attractive joint. I used it recently on this silverware case that we featured in the July-August issue of Woodworker's Journal magazine. Let me show you how it's done. I think you'll like what you see. Before you get started, there's a curious detail regarding some dovetail bits. They sometimes come with a non-standard shank, which, as in this case, means you need an adapter to make your router's standard half-inch collar fit the bit. The jig that holds the box as you're cutting the dovetail keyways is pretty simple to make. You start with a thick piece of wood. This is some fur that I had laying around. It's thick, it's wide enough to hold the box. Then you miter cut it. You bisect it at 45 degrees. You flip one piece over and butt it up, and that's your perfect 90-degree angle. Then you attach a fence to the back, another piece of wood to the front, simple plywood here, and you've got yourself a jig, and you're ready to run it against the router table fence to locate the dovetail key. It's pretty simple, very efficient. You can keep this around, use it over and over again. Once you have your router bit chucked into the router table, you'll adjust the height of the cut. Dovetail bits need to make the whole cut in one pass due to their unique shape. You adjust the placement of the cut using the router table fence. As always, use a test piece to make sure that your setup is correct. As you can see in this high angle shot, the router bit is set so that it cuts the dovetail shape wholly within the thickness of the stock, which in this case is 5/8 of an inch thick. Once you got everything set up, you can go ahead and cut a group of dovetail keys all at once. And that's what I'm going to do now. In the case of this box, 8 of the 12 total dovetail keyways can be machined using a single fence setting on the router table. It may seem obvious, but the distance from the fence is how we adjust the location of the cut. I'm now going to relocate for the last 4 cuts in this piece. Notice that the router table is unplugged, and then I'll be able to do the last few cuts, and then we'll get on to making the actual keys themselves. And that lined up pretty good. The last 4 cuts are easy to make, and then you are on to making the dovetail keys. There's no good way to set up the router table to cut your dovetail keys other than trial and error. So I always cut a few pieces of scrap identical to the material I'll be using, and then I eventually sneak up and get a good fit. That one's good. Once I do, I'm ready to cut the real thing. The dovetail bit is left at exactly the same height as when you were cutting the keyways. Now shape the keys and you're almost done. Once you've got the keyways cut on the router table, you can then slice off the excess on the bandsaw and then chop them to length. And then you get to glue them in place. Take a little bit of glue, put it inside the keyway, make sure it's nice and smooth. Put a little bit of glue on the keys. Slide it in place. It's a nice tight fit, friction fit. Now you don't really need to do anything but any more than just that, but I like to just tape it in place so that I know that it's not going to move over the next little bit as the glue is curing. You do that for each one of these things. Trim the excess off on the bandsaw, sand it smooth. So that's how easy it is to do. You can make the dovetailed keyways using a jig on your router table, make the matching keys, same router bit, same router table, glue them in place. You've got a nice reinforcing joint for a miter joint. That's it from here. I'm Rob Johnstone for the Woodworker's Journal. I hope you enjoyed this. Keep on making sawdust.